Welcome to the channel, Lower the Shield. Welcome back if you've been here before, and welcome to any first-time viewers also. I was prompted the other day when I saw Ren's video. It was more of like a battle rap to something that he'd been pulled into by another creator. Ren's the link to it is down below in the description. I encourage you to watch it in its entirety. I'm not going to play through the whole thing here. I don't know that there's a need to. There's many other reactions to that. But I was struck by what Ren did. His creativity, his authenticity continues to move through out into the community here. And what struck me was he began it and ended it with phrases from an old hymn called Amazing Grace. So let's listen to it.
We're gathered here today at the grave of Dotta.
So he opens his piece to the tune, and as though gathering for a funeral. And I can't recall how many funerals it is that I've been to where the tune Amazing Grace has been played, oftentimes on bagpipes. And here in the U.S., we have a cultural connection to the origin of bagpipes and to music such as Amazing Grace, yet we're so far distant from it, not only physically, but also culturally in other ways. Yet something like this continues to show up at funerals. And the funerals I have my most experiences with are with military and also with fallen officers, police officers. There's something about that, but other individuals also somehow have this connection to this song of Amazing Grace. So it prompted me. I was already somewhat familiar with it, but I was thinking might be useful for us as a community to start to settle in and identify what is it about Amazing Grace that prompted Ren to bring it into his video in this piece where he's engaged with a battle rap to another rapper. And the thing that strikes me the deepest is my original view, and then as I started digging into it, looking at some other views, is it's around redemption, forgiveness, and grace. And is that not a message that Ren has been sending out in so many of his creations? Whether it's a rap piece, whether it's Hi Ren, the Tales of Jenny and Screech. We just go through the list, and a constant message that I continue to pull out of it anyway is around that we're all human. We all struggle with our flaws, with our frailness, with our inequities. And sometimes we come into conflict with others. And what do we do when that shows up? So again, if you haven't watched it, I encourage you to maybe even pause from the live stream here. Go watch that if you find it necessary, because within it, what I was sensing is he broke character through the first half, maybe the first 2/3, and every once in a while apologized to King Dotta, and he went on and he had delivered his battle rap. But then he shifted, and here came from my view anyway, of what I viewed as the authentic Ren, of actually saying, "Hey, King Dotta, what are we doing here? Let's get into this. Let's be human. We don't need the conflicts. There's enough of that going on in the world. And his authenticity, his consistent message that continues to show up is pulling other people up, working with them, even when they're attacking him. Yet his creativity, Ren's ability as an actor, as a performer, to come in and deliver some very harsh challenges in a battle rap, caught me by surprise when I first heard it. And even as I watched it several other times, kind of thinking, okay, well, that's not me. It's not the style of music that I lean into. But when I stick through it and I listen to the messages that are coming through, there's consistent messages, even in the darts that are being thrown, references to some literature throughout it, references to other moments in time and spirituality and things like that. But ultimately, it's around the forgiveness aspect. If any of us screw up, do something less than ideal, are we able to forgive ourselves, but can others forgive us? And then ultimately, can we receive grace at some point when that feels appropriate or when it is appropriate? Can we be redeemed for our screw-ups? And in essence, that's, for me, it's almost, that's what Ren was doing in the last portion of his video, is he was saying, hey, this isn't me. I'm not going to do this. And he tells us right at the end there. Let's listen to that together also.
I think I've got to leave it at that, because I'm not a battle rapper, but I do like to rap. Now 1 million new eyes will be on where you're at. I hope you roll with it, my friend. Put yourself on the map. Dotta is sick.
So I don't know what to do with that. I've never really understood the cultural aspects of battle rap, and I'm not going to try to get into it. I do attempt to open myself up to various forms of music and literature and those sorts of things when they come my way, and this is one form. But around this idea that he opens and closes to Amazing Grace, I started looking deeper into the song then, and I said, well, if it shows up in funerals that I've been to throughout my life, I've seen it in many movies, I've heard the song many times throughout my entire life, and I knew that it was written around the time of the American Revolutionary War, in other words, the 1770s. I also understand, and from my readings, that the author of the words to the song, John Newton, British, he was a captain involved in the slave trade. And then he encountered a life-threatening event where he almost died, and he had a significant transformation. And he left being a sea captain and then found the clergy. And in that, he also then started to become an abolitionist. And he became very vocal, apparently, with some of the goings on over in the United Kingdom around slavery and playing a role in abolishing it over there. Some of what I understand, and I don't know this to be absolutely true, but some of what I understand, that over here in the United States, around the time of slavery still and the Civil War, and certainly through the civil rights movements in the 1960s here, the song also took particular flavor and energy with Black people in the United States, finding that hope, that redemption, the forgiveness, the struggle that comes through adversity, and being able to move up higher and higher, regardless of how hard things can get. And it continues to remain that way. And I'd be interesting if maybe put down in the comments below if I'm getting close to that. Yes, this particular song has deep meaning, and he bookmarked it for us, bookended it. He puts it at the beginning, at the end of that. His moving forward and delivering this out to us into the community to do this thing, and then he identifies, I'm not a battle rapper. I like to rap. It starts to get into this idea that I haven't talked a lot about here on the channel, but the name of the channel is Lower the Shield. What are shields? How do they show up? How do we recognize them in ourselves, but how do we recognize them in other people? If Ren is performing for us, and he's doing, in this case, doing the battle rap, coming back and forth with some of the things that aren't him at his core, but his core is really to pull people up, to uplift people, to bring people together. Then it's a form of a shield. They show up in all sorts of different ways. Pink Floyd has them show up in the form of walls. They can be when it's wrapped around trauma, it can show up as a form of dissociation, of a separation, of a compartmentalization. So when we notice that we have a shield up, or that somebody else has a shield up, what happens if we get behind it? And this is where sometimes the separation starts to happen. If I put my shields up too high, I'm not going to let people in. I won't let them close. They won't see true emotions. They'll see a phoniness. Versus when we lower them, we start to see authenticity. So as Ren names that here, that he's not a battle rapper, he likes to rap. He's not overly identifying with being a rapper. He's saying, I like to rap. For each of us, I'm guessing for much of the community out there, you like to do a lot of things, but it's the things that we identify with that we look at and go, well, that's not really us. It's the persona. It's the shield I'm going to put up. It's the wall I'm going to put up. It's what I'm going to let the world see about me. Because if I let them see too much of what's really in here, that might not be safe. So I won't do it. And that's part of being human. Lowering the shield when it's safe to lower the shield, when it's useful, can be a powerful thing. If somehow our shields get shattered, going back to the concept that Pink Floyd sang about in The Wall, when the wall comes tumbling down, it can be overly upsetting and things like that. So back to what prompted me to start talking about this is throughout Ren's interaction in this particular video, he's identifying within what verbally for us, possibly what he sees in King Dotta, that, hey, this is just another guy out there trying to make sense of the world. And one of the ways that he does it is through rap. And hey, let's pull this guy up and let's see if we can be there for him also. In essence, what is it that any of us really want and need out of this world is but somehow be seen, known, and understood by others. So rap could be one way of doing that. So with all that, don't know that I have much else to say other than to hit on those key points, that the pinning it, bookmarking, bookending, this whole thing with Amazing Grace, it struck me the very first time I heard it. And then I've probably watched it now 10 times, those various reactors. I watched it straight through the original several times myself. I can't get off of that there's references that it is about accepting others the way they are. And then standing up for ourselves also. When do we stand up and say, hey, what you're doing is not okay? That's another form of being compassionate for ourselves, but also then bringing compassion back out into the world. And I've talked a lot about that as this channel has been evolving and emerging and growing, and the community is coming in, seeking something here. I'm continuing to find amazement with the comments that you guys are posting on some of the videos that I've made about what it's like to find connection, and how it is that when we feel like we don't have it, how do we foster connection if we look around in our immediate area and we don't have it? Maybe the YouTube's the place the only one of the first places that we can start to grow it so that we can take it back out into the real world. So I'm just noticing that there's a couple comments coming up here. I'm not going to be able to look at all of them right now, I think, but there's one that popped up right here. It's this is from Feral Human. If you transparently and unconditionally forgive yourself for the flaws within you, you lose all need to try to gain external forgiveness of others, which is usually conditional and prejudiced. That resonates with me. I'm wondering how views and comments like that. I've done a lot of work as a psychotherapist, working with other people, working with my own flaws and inequities, etc., around this idea of forgiveness. And the place that I've found that the most growth occurs is when it's self-forgiveness. And that allows us to come back out then to forgive others, not necessarily because they're asking for it. And forgiveness is a deep topic, and if it's useful, maybe I can have a deeper discussion around that idea of forgiveness from the psychological, emotional, and developmental aspects of what's it mean to us and what happens when it's not available to us. It's another form of the shield. If we're walled off so much that we aren't able to forgive ourselves for our screw-ups, but we're out forgiving the rest of the world, then there's something that goes on internally that can be challenging and troubling for us. And really create challenges in life that makes it difficult to have relationships and to experience joys and gratitude and happiness, all the things that we like to have amidst all of our suffering. Yes, Kitty 10141 comments on how difficult self-forgiveness can be. Absolutely. From me, my personal journey, it's one of the hardest things that I did. Once I started doing it, being able to do it, recognizing that me too, not just others. So much of my world kind of expanded out to, I'm guessing that's part of what fuels me creating this channel and then wanting to be here and show up in the way that I do and just watch what happens out here in the community and how so much of the community is now starting to come together around these ideas of forgiveness and acceptance and compassion, humanity, etc. It goes on and on. And, all that stuff. So, yeah, quite a few comments are coming in. I'm going to scroll back up toward the top of them while I've been yakking. I see that several have been commenting. Yeah, so early on, R. Alexander Fleming commented that sea captains would be the most prolific slave killers, killing them many at a time. When I look at that part of history, when I settle in and I think of what it might have been like, and then to have a realization of, I played a role in all these people being, one, enslaved, transported against their will across an ocean to faraway lands, and then potentially killing them. That burden, that kind of heavy burden as the transformation starts to take place, would quite possibly be quite a deep experience. There's there's a concept, it's called Dark Night of the Soul. It shows up in Catholicism, but it also shows up in some other spiritual components around the globe, that when we encounter something like that, we go down into this deep, dark place within ourselves, and we come out changed. And the change oftentimes is very transformative to the point of enlightenment sometimes for some individuals, but not everybody. But many of us have the ability to move through life, and then as we go through these milestones, we encounter things within ourselves where we go, man, what I did, I'm not particularly proud of. And shoulda, woulda, couldas just don't cut it. And they can take us, depending on our personality structures, whatnot, they can take us down the paths of addiction and dysfunctional relationships, etc. Or those moments of suffering allow us to then transform ourselves or be transformed by the experiences and come out. And very often, forgiveness and self-forgiveness and redemption is a way of healing those wounds that we carry within us, to lighten the burden. Doesn't mean that we don't remember the things that we've experienced and what we carry with us. They become a little bit lighter to carry, and then we can use them to come back out and change the world. I'm chuckling here as R. Alexander went on to comment that as a waiter, a shield is necessary for customer service. And absolutely, all of us, I don't want to say all, most of us have various shields that we've constructed throughout life. And they're very useful at the time that they're there. What's important for us is to identify when they're not useful, and can we lower them appropriately at the right times? Can we keep them up at the right times? And that's the importance of the channel's called Lower the Shield. Well, if every shields just totally went down, we'd make ourselves so vulnerable that people would take advantage of us. We'd be taken advantage of. We'd say and do things we wish we hadn't. It's like so much comes with that. But with awareness, with deep insight, self-awareness, shields up. I can become emotionally stoic, which is a large part of my earlier life years for decades, or I can open up and allow emotions to flow. And yet I've learned to meter for myself that sometimes if I allow too much emotion, it can be too hard for somebody that I'm interacting with. One of the mantras that a fellow colleague and I used to talk about it is, if we're sitting with a client and we're crying more than the client is, that's probably not a good thing. So we have to learn how to notice that whatever's going on is pulling up emotions, sadness, angst, horror, whatever it is, and to meter it, to tune it, to tone it, so that we can still be engaged with the way we need to be. And that goes with all career paths. As a waiter, certainly you got to be able to go up, do certain things with the guests that are being served, not only to protect yourself, but also so that you can keep doing what it is that you got to do so you can keep your job. So the shields protect in both directions. They might keep us from saying things we wish we hadn't said, or expressing emotions that we wish we hadn't expressed, even though we're having the thoughts and having the emotions. And other times it's whatever's coming our way, we just got to be able to protect ourselves from receiving it, because to bring in too much can be overwhelming as well. So, got another comment here from Raymond W. Appreciate your ideas and applications. Running yourself are similar in this music atmosphere. And I appreciate comments like that. I'm going to share something. I wasn't planning to do this, but I've got it queued up here. It's going to be for another video. I'm going to share this. This idea of music. About 9 years ago, I was working with a personal trainer and go to a gym three or four times a week, get my ass kicked by by my coach, Coach PJ. And I walk in one day and he had, point this way, he had this written up on the whiteboard, and I saw it. I go, whoa. And it was something that he'd come up with, the 5 keys to success. And a couple of weeks ago, Ren came out with a video about his success when he exceeded the 1 million subscribers, and he came out and talked about success, and that prompted me to remember this. But just now, this comment makes me think of it. Music. motivation. How do we define our motivation? What pulls us out into the world to show up the way we do? Each of you that are listening to this, that either listening live or that will come in and listen later on, something is pulling your motivation to do this. To define it for yourselves can be useful. And that can also be challenging. And we do a first glance, say, okay, I'm motivated to do this. But when we do a deeper dive, we often find that there's something at our core. And this is what the shields start to protect, is the core. There's something at the core that when I name it, it'll be a core value that starts to inform everything we do in life, including how do we work out, how do we make money, how do we decide to make money, how do we take care of the family, how do we take care of ourselves, etc. It goes on and on. So our motivation, once we define it, we're defining our core value. It's there present for us. Then we know how to protect it if it ever becomes overly. This is what the shields help protect, is we can protect it or we can bring it out and use it in a way that's useful. Our uniqueness, identifying our uniqueness. The film, the cartoon, Finding Nemo, Dory makes a comment. You're unique just like everybody else. That we're all unique, but yet we're all human, so we all have certain basic needs and wants and desires, but we're also unique. And to define our uniqueness and to be able to do something with that, with the support of whatever it is our motivation is, can allow us then to show up in the world in a way that maybe we're not necessarily designed to please others, but we find that we're on a path where we're constantly trying to please others. Or the flip side might be that we don't really give a shit about what other people think about us. And yet, deep down, we really do. This back and forth. So being able to define our uniqueness, that's being supported by whatever that core, the definition that defines our motivation, can be useful. Then support, building support. Is that not what we're doing here? I have a channel. I created a channel on YouTube. Any of us can do that. I didn't realize how easy it is to make a channel. It's easy to make a channel. Not so easy necessarily to have subscribers. That's a whole different thing. I like to think that the people that have decided to subscribe to this channel are not only possibly supporting my motivation to bring it out, but also supporting each other, but doing something to support themselves, building that community, and then maybe looking around, okay, what other aspects of support do I need in life? After all, this is all about life. Looking around, saying, okay, where do I have a gap in support? Where can I shore it up? Who do I support? You can look around, whether it's monetary support, just simply being a friend for somebody, a listening ear, a kind soul, or something like that. There's so many ways that we can check in with support of what that means to us as we're creating music. We're leaning in. We're changing our PlayStation. We're changing our playlist. I think back to the old days of having a push-button radio, AM radio on a car. You just push a button to change the radio so you didn't have to listen to the commercials. What happens when we do that? And we build support along the way. And then the inspiration. We got to find our inspiration, our why, our bliss. What brings us bliss? What's our passion? Being able to move back out into the world once we have identified it. Our inspiration to keep doing the things that it is that we do, knowing that we don't do it 100% all the time. We can go up and down and whatnot. But our motivation, that core value, is driving us through all of it. Or at least we can check in with it once in a while. And then the commitment. Decide. Just got to do it. One of the things that I recommend for people to do is first thing in the morning when you wake up, before the feet hit the ground, place a hand on the chest and recall that motivation, that core value of why you exist. It's kind of really is. It's the why. It's like, oh, yeah. Say it to yourself, yeah. And then get up and go hit the head, go to the bathroom, go get something to eat. Whatever that next first thing is, making this the first thing of checking back into that motivation before you even get up out of bed. Over time, it starts to become embodied. So it's present all the time. And then with deeper awareness, you start to really have an understanding and a deep sense of it's being challenged. It's being overly challenged. And sometimes that challenge can show up in something like what prompted Ren to make this video here is somebody started throwing slings and arrows across the ether through the internet, through YouTube at Ren, and something about him said, I'm going to do something with that. Something positive, ideally. Well, I don't know what he was thinking, but certainly that's the messages I was getting out of his message. To do something positive. So one of these 5 keys to success that my coach suggested so long ago, one of the ways he described it to me when I started asking about it is he goes, change the station, change up your music, do it frequently. And that does something. That type of change opens us up to different experiences. So it opens us up to different types of individuals. Quite probable for me anyway, what it's done is it's opened me up into this realm that here we are here today, sitting around a similar topic, having it's a one-way dialogue coming from me with some comments showing up in the comment sections. And it's like there's this connection, there's this interaction. And without me being able to have changed my music station, I wouldn't be here to allow myself to have coming this way, what's coming this way, and then to allow myself even to then spew out whatever nuggets that I may have, good or bad. I have no idea how my words land on other people most of the time until I get some feedback saying, hey, yeah, I kind of like that. Or, yeah, you kind of missed the mark here. I've been called out on a couple things here, and I'll misspeak once in a while, and I'm open to that also. So let's look at a couple more comments, and then I think I'm going to wrap it up here. Let's see. I see you guys have been typing away while I'm chatting and yapping, so. Yeah, so one of the comments here by James Doherty. Ren, King, Dotta, Knox, they all won. It was good fun. I was noticing that another one that I became aware of as a result of becoming aware of Ren is Knox Hill. What a bright, shining, quick-thinking individuals. Both these guys, Ren and Knox, are extremely sharp. And Knox has chosen to stay out of this thing with King Dotta for whatever reason. He was named in it, I guess, at some point. I'm not following this. I'm just gathering from what's showing up through notices on my notifications on YouTube that he was named in it. And he gets named. Ren throws his name out in this video here. And he's choosing to, wisely maybe, to let things ride, yet potentially that there may be growth in all of this. My hopes and dreams are that it's positive growth. We can never know. We don't really know how our actions affect the people in the world. So there's Noel Wards makes a comment. Ren's actions give Dotta the opportunity to create new material with new fans watching. I hope he takes that opportunity positively. Isn't that it? It's the most we can do is be us, be our authentic selves. We throw it out there into the world. You guys can make comments here. You toss them out here and then wait for it. Just wait for the effects. And oftentimes we don't know the effects of our actions have on the world. Some are immediate, some are instantaneous, and sometimes there's a simmering, there's a marinating that has to happen. And we've made change in somebody's life somehow, however subtle. And we don't always have the opportunity to get to know what those changes were. When I think back to my previous careers, interacted with thousands, if not tens of thousands of people across the 40 years or so. And very few of them do I have direct personal knowledge knowing that because I showed up, I made a positive change in their life, or maybe a negative change. That's the thing is, but what I can do is I can check back in with how I recall showing up and how I show up now, and attempt to be the best Mark that I can be now in this moment, in bringing forward as much of that authenticity as I can, and send it back out and just continue to keep doing, just being the best I can be at any given time. And I know that may sound like a slogan for the military, or be the best you can be, but there's something about that of being the best you can now in this moment. And this moment's not very big. Can't do anything about the past, and the future's not here yet. So what's this one now? Just being the best. So yeah, lots and lots of comments. Well, I'm really appreciative of that also, how much engagement there is right now on this live stream. I'm not used to doing live streams. I think this is the fourth one. So this is new to me. This interaction, it feels odd to pause and read a comment and then read that back out to you guys. So if that's working, if it's something that's working for you, let me know. And if you say, nah, dude, don't do that. Just tell us what you want to tell us and get off. And I'm okay with any of that. Yeah, James Doherty made another comment here. It's like the good, the bad, the ugly, or the good cop, bad cop. We need the hero and the villain. Isn't that what High Ren was about? You had these two different sides of Ren having this interaction. Then a third one comes in and says, hey, let's step forward, stands up out of the wheelchair and says, yeah, let's go with this. We embrace it all. Each of us, many different avenues of theory will start to describe this. Each of us have these different sides of ourselves, more shields. And once we know them, we can embrace our good cop. We can embrace our bad cop. We can embrace the good, the bad, the ugly of us. Yeah. Oh, I got this ugly side. I'm not going to let anybody see the ugly. Oh, so I'm going to hide 1/3 of myself if I'm just going to let the good side and the bad side. Oh, wait. Maybe I'll let the ugly be seen. I won't let the bad side be seen. Yeah, I can pick and choose, raise shields, lower shields, or just to be able to acknowledge that we all have these various sides, and to acknowledge for ourselves that we do, make sense of them, forgive the inequities, embrace everything, and then come back out as authentically as we can. Sketch Therapy asks, you mean Carl Jung's shadows? Yeah, that's one of the, it's near and dear. One of the first reactions I did, it was to High Ren. I spoke significantly around the shadow, but there's other theories that start describing that also. Similar concepts, but describing it slightly different, just using different words. In the trauma realm, which is, at the time Carl Jung was around, trauma wasn't named as a big thing, yet life experiences helped shape the formation of the shadow and the subconscious and the unconscious. There's some people call it a third wave in psychology, where there's this view where we put the name trauma, that it is a thing, that it's inevitable, that if we live life long enough, we're going to experience something that is potentially overwhelming for us, and we may land and feel traumatic as we think about it. It's in our body. And then what develops from that. So one of the therapy modalities that I would embrace was called internal family systems theory. And it was, in essence, it's about identifying the individual parts that are on the inside, the different aspects of ourselves, and the roles that they have, and to bring them together so that they work together in an integrated fashion rather than a disintegrated fashion. So that, so say I drink too much alcohol and I've now have what maybe friends and family might consider a drinking problem, an addiction maybe. That has a function for me. That is a shield. That is one of the walls. That is one of the compartments that I might have constructed. That one particular theory says, well, it has a function. Well, what's the function? And lean in and start to have this inner dialogue. It's like the two different sides of Ren in a different way, having this dialogue back and forth, and understanding develops, and a healing starts to develop, so that the behaviors change. And it's about changing behaviors. Sometimes thoughts are behaviors, so it could be changing the way we think about things. It could be other types of behaviors as well. So, yeah, bringing in all these different theories, and there's many others that start describing these different components of ourselves, and then what do we do with them? For me, one of the first things is, how do we become aware of them? Because it is us. And it can come from the outside. We can have people talk to us and say things to us that might sting, but when we turn inward, we start to investigate, well, what's this sting about? And that can be useful. It can also be challenging. So one of the things with this, if anybody engaged here, anybody watching this even into the future, if you are really struggling, reaching out to a therapist, a spiritual leader, a trusted friend, a neighbor, someone that you do trust, that you can sit down and have these deeper conversations with. You don't have to do it alone. This is a one-way kind of a dialogue, and it's not therapy. So being able to say, oh, yeah, what he was saying might sting a little bit, or, oh, yeah, that resonates. Yeah, I get it, or whatever it is. Knowing that there are choices out there as to making sense of this stuff. Sometimes it's enough simply to listen to music, to read a book, to read a self-help book or a book on a topic or something, and you get some deeper understanding. Other times it's not. It can be useful to talk to a third party, an outside person. So, yeah, I think that's it for today. You can drop comments down below here, or down below on other topics possibly, because I'm finding what within me, Ren's catalog, and then of course if I reach out into chinchilla and some other aspects around Ren, there's enough material there for me to launch myself off into deeper topics, like, here, talk about forgiveness and amazing grace and things like that. Or maybe there's something else. There's another interest here that's showing up in the community that is wanting attention that just hasn't been talked about yet. And if it lands and feels like it's could be done in a safe space here within this environment, maybe we can look at it and look at some other topics as well. So with that, I wish you all well, and may you continue to move out into the world with courage, a strength of heart, and with the intentions to make the world a little bit better. Stay well.